Alright everyone, so with the release of Chaos Origin, we ended up getting some new S-Force cards. This has been one of my favorite archetypes since the world premiere of it. My grandfather worked in security my entire life, so having something called Security Force really connected with me. I played the deck during tier limit format, I've played with the deck off and on, and now having more cards and actually being able to do more things and being able to play through certain things makes the deck a lot more fun for me personally. So I'm just going to give a general deck profile of it, cover some quick things, just kind of like a quick analysis of the deck. So it is a S-Force Fiendsmith Dark Magician of Destruction deck. Now, I know a lot of people are just going to look at this and say, oh, well, it's Fiendsmith Demod Slop. S-Force is in a unique position in the fact of not only do we have a level 6 Dark Spellcaster, but we also have a level 6 Light Fiend, meaning that from Demod we can get into DMod at any point during our regular combo. Fiendsmith, we can get into our S4 stuff. Now, we do have to wait a little bit into September for when Fancy Ball comes out for the S-Force part to really take off, because we can't really get the exact end board that we need right now without having Fancy Ball. There are some other cards that you could throw into its place, but it doesn't work as well as it would be post Magnificent Monsters. So, to start off with the deck profile, we're going to start off with all of the S-Force cards first. So, one of the newest monsters, S-Force Cygnus, and a reinforcement of the army. S-Force Cygnus is your Stratos of the deck. You're going to normal summon it, and you're going to add an S-Force monster from your deck to your hand. This is going to be mostly your main starter combo for your S-Force stuff. Now, this does have an effect to where if your opponent has a monster in the same column as this, it gains 1,000 attack points when it activates an effect. Doesn't really happen all that much. This is really just you summon it and then it's gone almost immediately after, and the Rhoda to get to it. But in addition to that, we also now max out on Retroactive. Now, what Retroactive does is it lets you perform a link summon of an S-Force monster using this card as a material in your hand. Meaning you can normal summon Cygnus, search this, and now you can go into the new link 2 that we have. I'll get to that later. But this makes it so that way any monster you have in your deck plus an S-Force Retroactive is full combo. So as long as you can get anybody on the board, and usually without using your normal summon, and this is in your hand, it's full combo. Rhoda can search either one of these, so if you happen to have Rhoda plus Cygnus in hand, you can activate Rhoda, or you can choose to normal Cygnus. Personally, in my opinion, just to play around Droll. I know Droll's not that popular in the format, but if I normal this, and let's say they Ash it, they Veiler it, or whatever, I can still activate Rhoda to get Retro. Rather than activating Rhoda to get Retro, and then if they activate Droll, I don't get the additional search with Cygnus. So it's, you just got to pay attention a little bit to those things. Retroactive also has another effect that makes the combo go better, and that's if you were to use an S-Force Monsters effect that would banish a card, you can use this card in the graveyard instead. So basically, whenever you would do something like with Night Chaser, Night Catcher, where it says, banish this card and one S-Force card from your hand, you can banish this from your graveyard instead. So normal Cygnus, search this, use those two to make Night Catcher, and then Night Catcher's effect, search a card, and then Night Catcher's second effect, banish it and this from graveyard. And it just allows you to just instantly keep going into the combos and very much steamroll it. This deck does play close to 17 starters. It does depend on how you want to build the deck. Mine is more of an anti-Droll build, just because I do play against a lot of non-meta decks, and a lot of the non-meta decks really do die to Droll. So I have, instead of like in the Fiendsmith cards where you would have, your 3 Tracked and your Lurie, I'm playing Sanct instead, just to try to be able to push through things. For the rest of the S-Force monsters, so you have one Edge Razor. Now, each S-Force monster from here on has a specific effect that applies to monsters in its same column. So if I have a monster here, any monster in these 2 columns, I know you can't see this off camera, applies only to the opponent. So, for example, Edge Razor, any monster that is in the same column as an S-Force monster cannot be used for a Link 3 or higher. So if you're playing a high Link Climb deck, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to do that. Next up, Gravitino, the Macrocosmos of the deck. Not necessarily a macrocosmos, more of a dimensional fissure, but any monster in the same column as an S-Force monster, if it leaves the field, it's banished. So even if you activate something, it's in the same column as Gravitino, okay, well, I'm going to return this to my hand. No, it's going to get banished. It says leave the field, it doesn't say instead of going to the graveyard. Platina, the one that gets us into the Dark Magician of Destruction stuff. This one, any monster in the same column as an S-Force monster loses 600 attack points. I believe it is 600. Let me just verify. Yes, it is 600 attack points. So that 3,000 monster that you've got, well, that's now 2,400. That monster that's only got 500 attack points, it's now got 0. This also has an additional effect to special summon any S-Force monster that is banished. So you have normal summon and special another one from hand. Search any S-Force card. Special summon something from banished. Now, the one that people really seem to hate the most whenever I use it, Lapswell. Lapswell is a level 6 light fiend with 2,400 attack points and 2,500 defense points. Its effect is when it's summoned, I can special summon an S-Force monster from my graveyard. And, once per turn, I can destroy all monsters in the same card's column on my opponent's side of the field. So, I can easily bring this back and, if you have a monster that's like, okay, this is really a problem. All right, well, I'm going to summon this. I'm going to bring something else back, and now I'm going to use this effect, and I'm going to destroy that, and it's gone. So each of those S-Force monsters do have unique abilities. Right now, it is more of a combo-based deck, so we're not really focusing on having the full field of S-Force monsters and having the control of that. I would like to get back to that type of build, but right now, that's just not that viable and not able to handle what's going on in the current format. And then for more of consistency cards, 3 Bridgehead and a Terraforming. Bridgehead, when you activate it, you can add an S-Force monster from your deck to your hand. And if an S-Force monster would be destroyed by battle by a monster in its same column, it can prevent that monster from being destroyed. So let's say you have, we'll just put Lapswell here, and then we'll put Platina here. We'll just ignore the column effects. If this Lapswell now attacks this Platina, I can use this, and now Platina is not destroyed by battle. It only applies to monsters that are in the same column. So if this is in a different column and it attacks, Bridgehead doesn't work. So you really have to pay attention to your column zoning when playing against this deck. It's part of the reason why it's really good is a lot of people don't pay attention to that. Because there's not really any other deck out there that uses this mechanic that much. You do have Mech Knights that can do things, but you don't have anything that's really restricting or anything that's really like, hey, you really need to pay attention to what's going on here. There's been some times where there's been people that have summoned something to a column that I have an S-Force monster in, and I have Platina plus Gravitino, and then they go to link off of something and, to try to make something stronger, and it's like, okay, well, now your materials are banished, and this card's still losing attack points. Moving on to new cards coming out from Chaos Origin to S-Force Origin. So this card specifically allows you to special summon a S-Force monster from your graveyard or banish, and if an S-Force card is banished, and whatever this summons banishes when it leaves the field, you can banish this from graveyard, banish an S-Force from your deck, and send one from the deck to the graveyard. So it sets up Lapswell to be able to revive something, and it sets up Platina to be able to revive something. Really good card, really good extender. The main focus of the goal is get to Night Chaser, get to this card, and just pretty much steamroll from there. And lastly, World Sorting. So this card is relatively new to playing it. The main focus of this is it allows you to move monsters in their columns. And the reason for that being is we do have an S-Force monster that we do play, new one, Mystify, that does focus specifically on a monster being in its same column on the opponent's side of the field, and I'll get into that once we get to that card. Haven't really been testing it a whole lot. Haven't really been going out of my way to activate it. This may get cut. Like I said, the majority of the time I haven't been playing it. It does have its, uniqueness, depending on what your opening hand is, but for right now, it's fine at being a 1. So that's the primary of the deck. That's basically everything that's there for that as far as our engine, our main stuff, the main core of the deck. Next, we're going to move into the not so much fun parts of the deck that a lot of people complain about, and that would be the Fiendsmith stuff. 3 Engraver, 1 Lacrima, 1 Saint. Now again, you could choose to cut this and instead put in 3 Tract and 1 Lurie. Again, that's perfectly fine. I play against people that play Droll a lot more, so that's why I'd rather go with this route, just to purposely avoid it. and being able to dodge things as well, and especially with Branded being such a popular deck, there's a lot of Bestials, and if you end up doing, you activate Tract, you get Lurie, you pitch Lurie, you activate Lurie to summon it, they can Bestial it, and now you've got nothing. Whereas with this, activate Sanct, get your token, get rid of the token, get Requiem, and you still have it. They can't Bestial anything and stop you from getting your Lacrima to the field. That being said, going second, this is awful because you can only attack with Fiend monsters. So it's kind of a give and take. The majority of the time when going second, I don't usually play with Sanct. I'll sometimes side it out. But not usually, because I usually want something to search with Engraver, and I need something in the deck to do that, because I want Engraver in Graveyard. So it's fine. Throughout the course of the combo, once you get Lapswell onto the field, it's a light Fiend, you send it, make Requiem, all of this comes back online. There's also a combo route that allows you to go through using Engraver, or using Tract, or Lacrima, and you use Sequence, you make Aerial Eater. Aerial Eater sends a Fiend from deck to graveyard, so you send Lapswell. You then use Sequence plus Aerial Eater, make Ognum Day. Ognum Day brings back Lapswell, and now you have your S4 stuff online. So they very much complement each other. It's just right now, like I said, I don't really want to die to Droll. And then waiting for more things from Magnificent Monsters, we've got 3 Witch of the Black Forest and 1 Gaze of Timaeus. Now, once Magnificent Monsters comes out, this is going to be cut down to 1 because we don't need it anymore because we'll have 3 Dark Magical Curtain. But for right now, this card, it's so funny that a card that came out in, I believe, 2004 is having meta relevance in this deck specifically. So, for those that don't know, the errata from Witch of the Black Forest is when it goes to the graveyard, you can search the card, just like you did before, but you cannot activate that monster's effects this turn. Here's the thing. You will normal this, link it off for Artemis, and then this will search retroactive. Retroactive to link from hand is not an activated effect, so it bypasses it immediately. So Witch of the Black Forest is a 1-card full combo. So once you add in Dark Magical Curtain, it's another 1-card full combo. Moving on to the rest of the main deck. Hand traps. 3 Ash to stop things. 3 Fualos. 3 Dominus Spark. This card has been a godsend. Being able to just out things that are on the board that just I don't want to deal with, that's just in the way, that's just stopping me, and just, being able to be like, okay, that monster that you got, I really don't like it, and now it's gone. And the fact that all S-Force are either light or dark works perfectly fine with that. All Dark Magician of Destruction stuff is dark. All Fiendsmith stuff is light. So definitely one of the most perfect fits to have a Dominus card in. 2 Droll, because again, I play against a lot of decks that do die to Droll, but I also play the Called By, Crossout, and Talents. Again, this is still very early on build of the deck. There's definitely a lot more things that can be changed and a lot more things that can happen. But with that being said, we will now move on to the extra deck. So we have 1 Night Chaser, 1 Night Catcher, and 1 Mystify. Night Chaser is just any S-Force monster, and it has a quick effect that it can bounce an S-Force monster on your field, and then special summon 1 from your banished. Now, this can bounce itself. Now, it's only a once per turn, so you can summon it, use its effect, bounce itself back to the extra deck, get something like Platina or Lapswell, continue to make stuff, and then link climb from there. Night Catcher. This card is the sole reason that the deck is as good as it is now. So when this is summoned, you can add 1 S-Force spell card from your deck to your hand. You can then banish this and an S-Force card from your hand, or if you have Retro Engrave, use Retro instead. And special summon 1 S-Force monster from your deck. If you're going to Ash anything in the deck, you need to Ash this. Because once this banishes stuff and gets things going, this is the key choke point of the deck, unfortunately. And once people understand that, they start countering it, then it's not going to be as much fun to play. But this was exactly what the deck needed. We needed something to make Retro alive, because Retro cannot link summon Night Chaser. because you need to have another monster on the field because it doesn't just substitute it itself. And previously before that, the only other Link monster we had, which I don't have in this deck list, was Justify. So you would need 2 monsters on field plus Retro in hand just to make this. So now instead, you just need 1 monster and Retro to make this. And then Mystify. This card is probably the most toxic card amongst all of them. So if there is a monster in this card's column on the opponent's side of the field, your opponent cannot special summon monsters inherently. So anything that would just be like, oh, special summon. No. And if you think, oh, well, I'll just summon something into another zone, this can move your monster anywhere. So as long as, like, even if you summon it to the extra monster zone, even if I have this and you're like, all right, well, I'm going to summon this here. Okay, well, now I'm going to move it to the same column as this. So now I'm going to move it from here to here. And now your effects are turned off. All in all, there's a lot of layered protection, or not really protection, but just a lot of layers, much like Branded, to get through. But it's just difficult to get through because it's trying to figure out, all right, how can I get through the Fiendsmith stuff and the Dark Magician of Destruction stuff and this S-Force stuff entirely. That being said, because there is more stuff, it is easier to make mistakes, but, give and take. For the Dark Magician of Destruction stuff, 1 Artemis because of the Witch of the Black Forest, so normal Witch, send Witch, summon this, add Retro, now you have Retro in hand plus a body on field. And then your Dark Magician of Destruction and Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. Moving into the other Link monsters before we get into the Fiendsmith stuff, IP Masquerena. This card, once Fancy Ball comes out, will be immediately replaced. This is only here just as a Fancy Ball substitute for Quartet, because in the end board that I make, it's not a lot of people that play S-Force do it, but my end board, I do the same thing that we do with Fancy Ball, except I have IP plus another monster. And so basically you do IP, another monster, Dragoon, make this gets back, IP, and Dragoon. Now, you can't use Masquerena 2 times in a row, but if I have something else that I want to be able to revive matching elements, then I'm able to do that. And then lastly, the Fiendsmith stuff. So, obviously, the 1 Requiem, the 1 Sequence, the 1 Ognum Day, Lacrima, and Desiree. I am thinking of cutting the Desiree to add other things in. It's just, Desiree doesn't come up all that often, but when it does, it wins games by itself. Being able to have 5,800 attack points and be untargeted, it's just insane in some matchups. Unfortunately, like I said, I don't really summon it a lot of times. I think this is something that I would rather not cut entirely, but put in the side deck and throw something else in here. But that's what we have testing for. And then Aerial Eater because it gets the S4 stuff going, and then because we have a bunch of 6s, Caesar. So that's the S4 stuff. I'm going to be bringing more content with it. I'm going to be uploading some replays, some combo guides, and other things else like that. So stay tuned.